What is it like being a Jamaican in Korea? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, the founder of Jamaicans.com. And today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to 3 Jamaicans that are living in Korea. I speak to Michael and Joanne and Stefani. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Why, Xavier, good to
Hi,
talk to
we're
you.
doing good.
Always nice to see you, Yadi.
Hi, Xavier.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Good. So this one is my first time with doing 3 people on one interview, which is really exciting. I'm really loving it. We had some conversations before, and this is just going to be a great one. So I'm going to start out with Michael and Joanne, sorry. I want to start out with you guys, and I'm going to ask which part of Jamaica you come from.
Ladies first.
I was born in Kingston, and I am second generation, I think they would say. So my parents were born in Jamaica, and my grandparents were born in China. So I'm second generation, born in Kingston.
And I grew up in Mandeville and a little bit in Yorkton, St. Catharines. I'm a country boy, and I loved it.
Right.
And I went to Monroe College in St. Elizabeth, and some people always say, "You're a red boy, so you must come from St. Elizabeth." No, I came from Mandeville and St. Catherine. But since I was about 15, I've been in Kingston. So I very much spent a lot of time in Kingston.
And Joanne, which school you representing? Since Michael bust the next question already and tell me which school him representing.
Well, do you need to ask? I went to Immaculate, prep school and high school. Actually, yeah, prep school I got kicked out because couldn't conform. And I went to Robertson's, and then I came back to Immaculate High School. But I had to leave early. I left in second form in 1971. So I didn't graduate.
No, you don't have to tell them a year. You don't have to tell them
all
a
right.
year.
No, yeah. I was born just the other day, so I'm just as a little bit older than Stephanie.
Yes,
You're teaching.
You left Immaculate prep school in 70 in whatever. All right, we'll leave that one alone. Stefani, I know you have where are you representing? Where the family from in Jamaica, and I think you are living there a little bit too.
A little bit. I spent most of my life in Jamaica.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. Actually, I am from Yorkton.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. So I was born in Spanish Town and grew up in Yorkton. I spent most of my time there. I went to Kingston for high school. So I went to Immaculate for 2 years.
Look at this.
Then I went to Hillel.
Look at Joanne's face. She is beaming there now.
And I also could not conform. So I left Immaculate High School after 2 years.
Okay. So is there a second school that was represented in that?
I ended up at Hillel, and I actually graduated from there. So I didn't move until after high school.
I see. Well, I am going to start out with my first question, and it is, how did you get to Korea? So I'm going to start with you, Stefani. How did you tell us a story?
So I actually failed learning languages, and I really wanted to be bilingual. So I just decided to uproot life and move here.
So
just came here.
So you basically are saying you took a deep dive, and you wanted that deep dive, and that deep dive into the language is what took you there.
Yes, I decided it was sink or swim. That was the only way I was going to learn.
Okay. All right. And Michael and Joanne?
Well, the thing is, when you said talking about jobs, well, my job is to follow him as his, as we say in Jamaica, not the jubi, but as his wife. So I had to follow Michael when he came to Korea. So I came with him.
Okay.
Boy, Xavier, was prayer. So I was sitting at home in Toronto at the time. It was the evening, and I got an email coming across to me saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you." I said, "Who is we?" I said, They said, "We're in Seoul. there's a company that wants to hire somebody with your skills. Would you be willing to talk to us? I said, I have no clue about what anybody in Seoul, Korea. How did you get my information? And they told me that they found me on LinkedIn and they wanted to talk to me. And so that went into a back and forth of sharing, exchanging resume and background history and my skills and my work history, a lot of it in Toronto. And they said, you're the guy we want to talk to. And in about 2 or 3 interviews later, they flew me to Korea in the month of March. And the CEO said to me, I want you to come to Korea. How soon can you come? Can you get here in April? I said, what? I said, I have to pack on everything if I have to do this. And he said, well, I want you as soon as possible. We ended up coming in May. And that's how we came to Korea and spent 6 years in Korea. By the blessings of God, because we said, Lord, you want us to go to where? I'm in Toronto. I'm happy. He said, no, this is for you. You go.
All right, guys. My next question is this one. What is the Korean people like? How do you describe them? And what's been your experience with the folks in Korea? I'm going to start with you, Michael and Joanne.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll go first, my love. It's a complex question, but I have to say we have seen the best of the interaction between us and Koreans. And I know some people have not had that ability to see that good side of it, but we've seen so much good. And one of the things I always say to people when people ask me, what is it about Korean people that you've noticed? I said, they are caring, they're kind, and they're we people. They're not independent me people, just leave me to do my thing. It's my rights. It's I care about you. You're part of my community. So we've seen that a lot in Korea. Now, maybe because we're foreigners, Koreans are very foreigner friendly. They're shy. They're at first very shy. But when they know that you're trying to talk to them and they respond, all of a sudden you become almost like your family. And it's the most amazing thing. You could be in a restaurant, all of a sudden you have a new friend. But that kind of caring and kindness we've seen over and over again, and that typifies for me the interactions we've already had with Koreans. I think the other thing about Koreans is they're very generous of spirit. So if you ever give a Korean a gift, they give you twice as much the gift back. So you can't outgive a Korean nowadays. You can't outgive them in kindness. You can't outgive them in gifts. You can't outgive them in thinking of them. If you write them a letter, they write you back 2 letters. So that's the Korean people that we've met.
Yeah, I agree. Michael and I, we think because we're very much alike in that way. That's been my experience too. As a couple, they're been very, very kind, and I think, as people say, you get back what you give. So we are very, we're very people person, and so Koreans have responded very well to us as well. But that's one thing we've noticed about Koreans, that they're very kind, they're very caring people. I would say that even another word, that they're very decent. Not all experience has been great. I mean, of course there are exceptions, but I would say overall Koreans are decent. They do the right thing. They follow the rules. They, as Michael said, they're we thinking people as opposed to me thinking, and I think that's one of the beauty of Koreans that we've come across. And they share so much. I mean, like as Michael said, sometimes we're in restaurants and no idea of what we're looking for or what we're eating. And they will just dish out some of their food and put it in our plates. And we're going, no, no, no. Of course, we don't know what the heck they're dish out. But we say, okay, thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you, So they're so kind. And that's happened with when visitors come, and I try not to tell them what to expect, so I kind of zip up. And always, every single visit that we've had or passed through here have said the same thing. They're so kind, So I'm always rewarded when I hear that they have the same experience.
Nice. Stephanie, what's been your experience in terms of what do the people? Who are the people?
I would say I agree a lot with Joanne and Michael. I think for the most part, I've had very positive experience here. So I actually try to, I guess it would be integrate as much as possible, even though obviously there's like a language barrier and because I'm very new here. But for the most part, I would say that people are sometimes they can be to themselves and they don't necessarily interact. But I think I've found a lot of similarities between like my upbringing being Chinese Jamaican and being in Korea. Like I found quite a bit of similarities, and I think I feel quite comfortable. As far as the being the we thing, actually there is even a linguistic component to that. So there is actually something in the language where Koreans don't actually say, for example, like they don't have a lot of like individualistic language. So even it's our Korea, our country, our husband, things like that.
Mm.
That's very intertwined. So I think
Mm.
the language and culture kind of binds like that. I know there are a lot of people I've heard that they may not have the most positive experience, but I think for me personally, I would say that I think I've had a pretty good, inviting and welcoming experience here.
Okay.
Good to hear.
So one of the question I'm gonna ask is this one. We have two Chinese Jamaicans here, and we have
A red
what would
Jamaican.
I say? Now when people encounter you and realize, hey, you're Jamaican, your encounter, I'm talking now to Joanne and Stephanie, maybe a little bit different from Michael. So I want to hear what those encounters and those experiences are like when folks encounter you. And because hey, Jamaican people, Joanne is a Chinese woman, no matter where she come from. If she came from Japan, she'd be Chinese. If she came from Korea, she would be Chinese. But it's distinct when you're probably there, from what I understand. So I'm gonna start with you, Joanne and Michael, and then we'll hop over to you, Stephanie, in terms of that interaction, that experience when they find out you're Jamaican, and then how you navigate being that Joanne, you're a Chinese Jamaican, and so are you, Stephanie. And then Michael, how you navigate being, obviously, yes, you're fair skinned, but a black man in Korea.
It's a great question. Joe, you go.
Well, for me, first of all, when they look at me and it's before COVID and I didn't have on a mask, they would look at me and they say, and they talk to me in Korean. And of course, I say, 미안합니다, which is I'm sorry, but I don't speak Korean. They go, why? And I'm not Korean. I go, well, you look Korean. You need to speak Korean. And I go, okay. And then, so then the next thing that I would say is, at first I would say I'm from Jamaica. Oh, you mean Africa? And no, not from Africa. And I would say Jamaica. And then, Usain Bolt, Bolty. And they go, Bolt. Or when we used to say Bob Marley, then some of them don't know who Bob Marley is. But and then when I would say that I'm Chinese, some of them are a little offended because the Chinese culture and Korea, Chinese were very oppressive over the Koreans. So I'm careful not to say that all the time that I'm from Chinese, from Jamaica, especially for the ones that don't know or not familiar where Jamaica is. And then know that we have to wear a mask. So they look at me and they go, oh, Korea. And I go, no. And then when I take off the mask, you're not really Korean. So I said, yeah, I'm from Jamaica. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Why do they look at you? I guess it refers. I was hearing there's they can't tell the distinction. So with the mask, you're saying they look at you and they know, no. Once you pull the mask down, is it what feature are they looking at?
I think they say the eyes. I look Korean. But when I take off the mask, I don't know what it is. They just say, okay, you're not fully, you don't look fully Korean. I don't know what it is.
Your experience, Michael?
Yeah. So coming here, I remember so a couple of things. I hope I'm not saying it out of turn, but I remember Joanne saying, I don't want to go to Korea because then I look like everybody else. And
Exactly.
I look so exotic when I'm in Canada, or I look so exotic when I'm in Jamaica.
Exactly.
Everybody says, whoa,
Yes.
brown skin girl, hey, hi brown girl. But when she comes to Korea, she goes,
I look like everybody else, and I don't want to look like everybody else.
So she really was worried about looking like everybody else. I'm going,
and I do.
Hon, just take it a step at a time. Now, the truth is they do think she's Korean, but what would happen a lot is because I work every day with Koreans, I started to speak the language more and more. So over the years, I would answer the phrases, how are you? What's the weather like? Where are you going tonight? How was your weekend? You know, are you going driving this weekend? Blah, blah. Where are you going for your birthday? All that kind of stuff I could say in Korean. So every time we go out, everybody would speak to her and I would answer. And they would look at me going, what is this black man doing answering? And then they'd look back at her and go, answer her again in Korean. And I would answer. And they would go, wait a second. So then they'd start talking to me in full-blown Korean, and my Korean was limited. And they'd get completely upset with me because I couldn't speak fluent Korean back to them. And I said, I'm sorry, I really can't keep up with the language. There's more than I can manage. Jokum Hangul man. And they would go, oh. So she can't speak, you can speak, but you can't speak everything. And then they kind of go back to, all right, sign language and go back to facial expressions to communicate. But it was kind of funny because a lot of times they would look at her wondering, why is this guy speaking Korean and you can't speak? Mm-hmm. In terms of being black, I don't think Koreans see me as black. They think black, you have to be black. Mm-hmm. But what they do know is I'm very much not Asian and I'm very much not white. So they try and figure what I am, and I just say I'm from Jamaica. I lived in Canada, but they love my accent and they love the way I speak because I speak more clear than anybody else who speaks English. They think Jamaicans speak perfect English. So they love my English. I have people who work for me from France, people who work for me from other countries, Iran, Quebec, and they don't understand their English. But when they speak to me, they say, Samunim, your English is excellent. And I think just when they see me as interesting foreigner, not so much as a black man, but when they ask me where I'm from and I say Jamaica and we have beautiful beaches and mountains like Korea, they get very engaged because they go, oh, and I say it's so beautiful, it's paradise, and they say, oh, and then they start looking up Jamaica. Most Koreans don't know much about Jamaica at all.
Wow. Stephanie, I want to bring you in. Your experience there again. You know, you are Chinese Jamaican, so you probably have some interesting interactions also.
So when I initially moved here, I told my family that because my mom was kind of worried about me moving to Asia. She's like, "Oh, I heard that like they may not be accepting," and so I kind of said, oh, well, I think it's just going to be a social experiment because I'm kind of racially ambiguous. So it often depends on who I interact with, what they think I am and where I'm from. So I've found that Korea it's like your degree of Koreanness. So if I'm with someone who is more foreign looking than me, and of course I have the mask on, they turn to me and just start speaking full Korean. However, if I'm standing next to someone who is obviously Korean, then it changes and they look to them immediately. Even if I answer. So if I ask a question or if I order something, they will turn to the person I'm with and ask them to retranslate. So it definitely depends. I'm not really sure how many people actually think I'm like Gyopo, which is like mixed Korean born abroad versus something else. Not often am I asked where I'm from.
Okay. So when you say you're Jamaican, Stephanie, what's the typical reaction? I know Michael and Joanne mentioned the typical reaction. What reaction are you getting when that happens?
Usually I'm interacting with children, so they usually don't know where that is. They're often very confused because they're like, "What is that? I don't know." And then they don't know how to ask, how to elaborate in English because I teach. So I would say Koreans that I've told who are adults usually don't know where that is. And usually they'll ask me just more questions like, where is that? Is it like in Africa? Is it here? And yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
find most people are a little bit more trying to figure out what I am rather than where I'm from.
I see. I see. So, you mentioned that you teach,
Mm.
and I'm gonna go into my language because we touched a little bit on that. And Michael, seemed like he's mastered some of the language there and is pretty good at it. So, have you mastered? You said you came to just dig into the language. Have you mastered any?
Mastered? No, absolutely not. I think it'll be years and years and years. I've only been here a little bit over a year,
Are you
and
ready? Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Can't believe that.
and I have been working on my Korean, but it's not where I would like it to be at this point. I think I focus a little bit too much on work. It's a bit of a habit, but yeah,
Okay.
working on it.
All right. So, I'm going to dig into food. If
Mm.
if if someone was to come to Korea, um, what would be that one food you would recommend them? A Jamaican, because we're kind of particular about food also. So, what would you say is something that you'd recommend that we try? So, I'm going to start with you, Stephanie. Then I'm going to go
Ah.
over to Michael and Joanne. And what would be that food you'd say if you come to Korea, you have to try this? And if you want to mention what your favorite thing is, that's perfectly fine.
Oh, I think I would say try everything and anything. I'm a bit of a foodie, so I really have no problem. I'll try anything. I pretty much love all the stew, Korean barbecue, everything.
Mm.
Okay.
If yeah, I would suggest that um, if anyone comes here, they need to try some kind of jjigae.
Yeah.
Which is a
Doesn't
Jjigae.
matter
stew.
what kind.
Jjigae
Stew.
is
Yeah.
a stew.
Yep.
What did
Stew.
I
Also,
say right or wrong? Chike or jjigae?
with a
Jjigae.
J.
Jjigae. With a
Okay.
J and a G.
So
Jjigae.
so JJIGAE. That's how they spell it.
And
Jjigae.
what is jjigae?
Stew.
Okay.
So there are different kinds of stews, but basically you will have an a bunch of different things in one thing. It's delicious. Try it.
Okay. All right. So, Michael and Joanne, what would each of you,
I want to go first.
you
I go
probably have
first,
your
okay?
own favorites there.
You go first and I'll add on my favorites to yours.
Mine is if a Jamaican came, well, first of all, being Chinese Jamaican, I discovered this one dish which is kalbi jim. Stephanie, I don't know if
Ooh,
you've tried it. It's
yes.
the Chinese, the Hakka Chinese, anyways, have a very similar dish. Don't ask me the name. I forget. But it's beef, and it's like the beef, um, not oxtail, but beef short rib, I think. And they stew it down, they cook it down with turnip and carrot. And Lord have
And
mercy, this
pear.
something tastes good. Something
Mm.
tastes so good. So I would recommend that one first, and then yeah, that's my favorite right now.
I have a list. Like I love Korean food. Couple things,
I
right?
know.
Keep it short, Michael Lopez.
I
Keep it
will, I
short.
will. The jigger thing, totally agree. Uh, um, Hemol jjigae, sundubu jjigae, you may name it, and sundubu jjigae is tofu jjigae,
Yes.
soya bean, and hemol jjigae is seafood jjigae. There's seafood everywhere. But this is kind of what I love. When we first came to Korea, the first thing I realized that I
On my
love
list.
was kalbi tang. And kalbitang is like a beef
Oh,
shank soup, and it's delicious. And I would have kalbitang nonstop. And like, and then
Beef.
I realized, but there's another thing called the chicken soup called samgyetang. And I thought, oh my
oh
gosh,
yes.
samgyetang with ginseng is fabulous. So I love samgyetang. And then I tried chapche, which is sweet potato noodles. It's like glass
Yes.
noodles made from sweet potato. And I go, this is fabulous.
Chinese have that too.
So we had chapche. But of course, there's always the grilled pork, and you call it Korean barbecue. So there's samgyeopsal, there's so kalbi, there's of
I'm
course Joanne
seeing,
mentioned kalbi
I'm
chim. So
seeing the
there's
look on
the
Stephanie's
whole
face
other stuff.
as you talk about these foods. It's just like Stephanie, just like, wow, I didn't mention it, but Michael has a whole list of stuff here. The secret
His
foodie,
enthusiasm is how I feel.
the
The
secret
food
foodie.
is fabulous. Now,
Also,
some
kalbi
people
is
come,
amazing.
and one of the things you must know about Korea, and I never knew, is Koreans like spicy food. I thought Asians spicy food. I thought maybe Szechuan Chinese was as spicy as it gets. No, Koreans love spicy food, and almost as spicy as Jamaican food, if not sometimes more spicy. So my wife said after a while, she tired of spicy food. She wants something mild. So many times she'll go to the restaurant, she said, please, medium spicy, not regular. And they make it a little less spicy. Me, I've gotten used to Korean spicy food, so very spicy and
So
love it.
so
But I have
my
to tell you, the one thing that I tell Jamaicans, eat up all your yam because they don't have yam here. I love yellow yam and any dasheen or any.
Cocoa.
They have none of that. There was one thing I found that's close to it, which is called ma. I think
Ma.
a long.
White yam.
Stephanie, I don't know if you see it. It's a long thing, a
Yeah.
root,
Mm.
but it's soft and it kind of mushy. So sometimes when I put it in soup, when I make soup, I say, "Oh, this is the semi-equivalent to yam," and I'll eat that. But everything else, yeah.
It tastes like
Oh,
dashi.
I
one
see.
more.
So
But seafood,
Which one?
the seafood in
Stephanie?
Korea is fabulous
Which
too.
one?
Kalguksu.
Yes.
Oh yes,
Galgoksu you must try.
yes, I
Seafood.
love that one. Yes.
And gamjatang. You ever tried
and what's
have you
that
tried
one?
gamjatang?
Yes.
Gamjatang I like.
What's that
But
one, Stephanie? What's that one?
It is if you like noodles, seafood, a mild soup, fabulous.
It's
Kalguksu.
kalguksu means knife cut noodles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, your wife might know this. It's a lot of the Korean food has come from China because it is influenced by Chinese, I should
right.
say. And that dish my grandmother used to make for me in Jamaica, and I used to beg her to cook that knife cut noodles. So it's just from flour, and then just knead it out, and then fresh, chicken soup, and then just boil it, and Lord have mercy, something is good.
So I will tell you this. Korean food was not my favorite when I visited the three Asian countries I visited: Japan, Korea, and China. Korean food was not my favorite. My children, or young adults, I should say, love it, but it wasn't my favorite. But I know what happened. I did not meet Michael, and I did not meet Stephanie or Joanne. And now that I know, I'm going to have to get a list of the items I should try, because it seems like I just had the wrong. Yes, yes.
I love that you made a list.
I am getting a list of the items I should try, because I'll be honest, all I tasted was some red spice on basically everything, which I just thought was, just making it hot, not really seasoned spicy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
but can I tell you something? Every area of Korea, or there are about 4 sections of Korea that have different ways of cooking. And my favorite is the southern coast of Korea. Jeollanam, they call it Jeollanam-do. Jeolla province in the south, which is Jeollanam. And that area of Korea has the best cuisine of all Korea. And when they cook, then you get the flavor. So we had not kalguksu. What we have? Yugejang. Oh my gosh, Xavier, you come back to Korea, I take you to the south of Korea in Jeollanam province, and you have Yukejang, you won't leave. You'll live there for the next 2 weeks.
Stephanie, you must try it. You must try it.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
All right, we have gone into this food thing. I'm sure it, for me, it sounds like I need to come back and try. And you guys, it sounds like I'm going to go out and get some of this tomorrow or the next day.
I want a chicken now.
So I'm going to move on to my next question, which is about the place itself. And if a Jamaican or someone was to visit Korea and you were to say, here is a place or an experience, what would that one place or experience, or it could even be an event. Some places there's a one-time event and you say, man, I experienced this particular event. If you can come here. I remember we scheduled our trip to Japan right around the time when the cherry blossoms are going to be blooming, and that's why we picked that time to go to Japan. So again, if there's an experience in an event or a place that you'd say, if you can come to Korea, experience this, what would that be? And I'm going to start out with you, Stephanie, and then I'll jump. Okay, we're going to Joanne and Michael. We're going to go to them first. All right,
Stephanie. Okay, listen to me now. I think I might have told you this when we met, right? I said, so for me, I would say, and I always try and take the visitors that come, my Jamaican friends, is the Korean spa, the gym, they call it Gym Jill Bang. Now, in Korea, it's a very popular and a very normal thing to do, to go every day to the spa. And women do it, and men do it too. They don't do it as often, but they do it every single day. And what it is you go to this spa and it's like a Turkish bath or the Roman baths.
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
All right, fine. And they go, and what they do is they shower and how do I say this?
It's hot steaming water, or with the ginger bag, it's a steam room or it's a hot room.
And it's a whole experience. It can be for families, and it can be when you have to go to the shower part, you have to, of course, separate for men with men and women with women. But there's some of the spas that have the entire family experience. So they have a floor that is a hot room, a hot stone room with jade stone, with salt stones, and you wear shorts and a t-shirt, and you go from room to room to room to room, and then they have
it's like 90 degrees,
and then you have a freezer room, like a cold room, and then you have a sauna room, and then you have pure oxygen room. So it's a very Korean experience. And when I first went in there, I said, there's no way I'm going naked in front of all these women. So, and a lot of my friends, Jamaican girls, do the same thing. I'm not doing that because, first of all, they say, Joanne, you look like the Koreans. We don't. We're clearly black, and with everything. But they got over their initial shyness, and we went in there, and it was like the most amazing experience, because it's very relaxing. When you go to beach on Sunday in Jamaica and you come back and you just feel so, it's just I feel so good. That's the experience you feel at the end of a Jim Jill Bang day. Don't it, Stephanie? Have you gone?
And it costs all of $8 to
COVID.
$10, sometimes $5.
She hasn't gone. COVID keeps. She can't go yet.
But they're open up. They've opened back up.
There's literally one that's walking distance from my house, and I haven't gone because of COVID.
Oh,
that experience.
Scared.
That experience you described sounds like when we went to China, my wife had to use the bathroom, and she's like, I really gonna have to use it. She avoided one, but then she said she had to use it. So, which is obviously in the ground where you
hole in the ground. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Michael, what would you say in terms of the experience, the event, the place? What would it be?
That's that to me. Oh, there's so much in Korea.
And if you want to give
There are
us
three
two,
things that I think of.
I
First of
know
all, you
you
have to go
only
to
have
a
a
Korean
list,
traditional market. A
right?
Korean traditional market like Namdaemun in Seoul is out of this world. I mean, you see everything and anything for just you just walk. You can walk in here for 4 hours and not see the same thing twice. And they sell everything, furniture. The only thing I don't sell, I don't think is a motor car. Furniture, shoes, clothes, wedding outfits, wigs, anything you want to buy, you can buy in a traditional market. And Namdaemun is world class. And just so you know, the largest music store in the world is in Korea. Can you believe it? So as a
Wow.
drummer and a musician and a yardie, I will come to Korea any day to buy my musical instrument. But anyway, if I was to take somebody really Korean experience and enjoy it, I would take them to a place called Tangjin and eat seafood live. And it will freak you out, but it is
Whoa.
truly
See,
Korean.
seafood live. What we're talking
Don't
about?
post.
Koreans are very big on these squids with long tentacles, and they cut them when they're live, and they put them with some sauce, and you eat it, and the squid tentacle sticks to the inside of your mouth. It's
Oh,
totally gross when you think of it, but the
all right,
experience is so Korean. You have to try it.
Michael. I
Actually,
know you're going to help me out with the food here, but let's avoid that one.
And then so the Namdaemun market, seafood experience, live seafood, and the third thing I would say is just the underground shopping in Korea is phenomenal. You can shop all day and not come above ground. Like you go underground and you can walk for I would say almost
true.
miles.
Forever.
Mm.
And there are places like um, Express Bus Terminal,
Mm.
underground shopping
Yeah.
in Gangnam, and oh my
Every
gosh,
subway, there's an underground shopping. It's
unbelievable.
crazy.
You think you see
Wow.
shops in Korea above ground? Go underground.
And
So,
my husband don't shop.
and I don't shop. You see everything, and
You do see
everything
everything.
is very inexpensive, very easy to buy.
Stephanie,
It's like a
what's your
dollar store all underground for miles.
Stephanie? What
True.
what would be yours?
I have been thinking about this and there is just too much. Okay, I will go. Actually, I live in a traditional market.
Mm.
So yes, I can contest. Like I can definitely agree that there is everything. You can buy flooring, wall things, shoes, anything. Um,
Electronics,
yep.
TV, anything you want, you can buy in that market,
Hmm.
and it
I
will
saw
cost
one store
a
that's
third of
just
the price.
fans.
What's
I
that?
saw once I saw one store that was just fans and I was like, who is buying this? But you know what? I will go the opposite direction. Since we've covered shopping, I would say okay, during May time there is a red day that is Buddha's birthday and
Mm.
all temples do lanterns. So they
Mm.
put up hundreds, thousands of lanterns.
Beautiful.
It's really beautiful and it's a whole experience to like go and sit, and even if you're not Buddhist, just sit there. There's something quite spiritual about it.
Mm.
Um there is
And
because it
sorry.
yeah.
So where do you? And I may have missed this now. Forgive me, but where do you experience all these lamps being put out? Is it all around Korea? Is it you go to like a specific place and you're seeing like almost a lantern show or lantern display?
So both. So along the roads, you will see cities put up lanterns, but then you can also just look up any Buddhist temple. Any Buddhist temple. There is a big one in close to Gangnam Station, where I went to, and they have like a really big display. There's like a whole walk up a hill. So you can look at lanterns plus the actual temples, go inside. There's lights. They have like ginormous statues. It's interesting. Um, there's a lot of different like cultural and art museums that you can visit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are also like a big thing about Korea is hiking. So if you like nature, there's a lot of different, like I would say spring or winter. You can go on a hike. There's lots of Same with there's a lot of cherry blossoms, there's a lot of flowers, a lot of wildflowers. I even went to this spring I went to a wildflower garden, which was beautiful, and it was like all just different types of wildflowers along the walk. So yeah, there's a lot.
All right.
There's a lot.
All right. So I'm going to switch up a little bit, kind of same artsy culture type of deal, and Michael being the musician kind of will step in. The first question I want to ask about music is a little different. So did you all hear this whole rumor which resurfaced about Jamaica banning K-pop?
No.
Didn't hear it, but why?
So that rumor circulated was it a couple weeks ago, and so I don't know if it got to you all or anybody asked you the question about this, in terms of there was it was a rumor. It was just it's a flat out lie that Jamaica had banned K-pop. And so there were news articles that say this is not true. This is, a whole thing about it. But this leads me to this, the industry there and the music there. Couple questions. Do you hear any reggae there? That's a first. And are you into the K-pop? Because it is just huge. So I am going to go over to the musician, start with the musician, Michael.
Yeah. As a musician, when I came here, I was curious about what they would listen to and what their kind of music was. And I was fully prepared for hearing something like what you hear about Chinese music, which is very shrill. None of that. So the K-pop is huge in Asia, and I guess it's going worldwide now, big in North America. And the Koreans sing with soul. I never thought that there was an Asian that could sing with black soul. They sing with soul. There's something about the Korean experience through the Korean War and black Americans coming as part of the soldier contingent from the USA to fight for Koreans in the Korean War. And then they had to stay here because there's still American army people here in case of North Korea being silly. But the whole black culture permeated into the young Koreans through the 60s and 70s. And so they grew up with a lot of singing soul and their own soul, not soul like black soul, like Motown soul, but their own soul, and their heart is in it because they have this sorrowful experience of the past with North Korea and the Japanese occupation. So with which they call Han. So I find the Korean absolutely understands how to sing with soul. And they've taken that soulful singing now and put this wickedly good funk beat or hip hop beat to it, and now they're singing this brand of hip hop with the dancing and the whole K-pop experience, and it's legitimately real. They're not copying. They literally feel it and like it and want it. So I would say the Koreans are the black people of Asia. I don't feel any embarrassment of saying that Koreans are the black people of Asia. They get it. They understand the experience of suffering, almost like black slaves in America would understand. But they live it out. They bring it out in a good way through their singing, through the food they eat. They love spam, for God's sake, and who eats spam? They love watermelon. They love fried chicken. Koreans have more fried chicken in Korea than anywhere else in the world. There's 90,000 fried chicken restaurants in Korea, which is ridiculously amazing. The Koreans love they love the experience of anything to do with the dancing and the way black people dance and the choreography. What is interesting though is that they don't really know much about reggae, but there are about 2 or 3 very solidly Korean reggae artists. Skull is one of them, and he records, and he's been to Jamaica, and he's recorded with Stephen Marley. And Joe took a picture of him. He met the Prime Minister 2 years ago, October, and they chatted. And he's very much into Korean, into Jamaica, and he has his own Korean reggae band. But that's maybe like 2 or 3 in the whole of the 52 million of Korea. They don't know reggae music. It's very limited. You'll see a Korean, and you won't hear reggae music in Korea. But it's starting to change. So the traditional Koreans are now taking reggae music and putting it to traditional Korean singing, and it's called pansori. And that
Oh,
is starting to take off, and it's only started, I've heard, in the last 12 months I've seen it come. So I think reggae is going through a new regrowth in Korea as pansori, not in terms of any K-pop, in its own, taking the traditional Korean singing and putting it to a reggae beat. And I'm telling you, it could be the next big thing in Korea. Give it another 2 or 3 years to take off.
I'm going to ask a question here, and I don't know, but before I ask this question, Stephanie and Joanne, did you have anything to add to the music thing here? Because I think the music man let it go, and you know,
I think for me, the only thing I wanted to add was that we have wanted to go to a K-pop concert before COVID, and we wanted to go for a long, long time, like BTS or Twice or Blackpink. But guess what happened? Every time I ask my Korean friend, them say, "Why?" I said, "Because we want to go experience K-pop," and they go, "But you're too old." And what do you mean we're too old? They said, "Only
That's
young
so
people
mean.
go." I said, "Only young people go," and I'm going, "Oh, brother. Well, we want to go, but so we wanted to buy tickets, but of course, then COVID hit and that
yeah,
stopped. So
my
yeah,
Actually,
my and Stephanie, have you been to a K-pop concert, and what do you have anything to add?
I have online because of COVID. So I'm like a closeted music fanatic. I listen to a lot of different genres, and I've listened to K-pop for. I calculated this the other day, and it's been close to like almost 2 decades.
What?
Wow.
You're the boss.
so,
Oh my gosh.
so I started listening to K-pop before K-pop was a thing in the Western world. Um, so I'm sure someone's gonna wonder about this, but yes, I do like BTS. I actually have a bunch
So,
of albums over there that I'm
listen,
hiding.
not a problem. My daughters, there was a concert, was it 2 weeks ago or some K-pop? They've been to the online concert. I think they've actually been to a physical concert. They are, I don't know if there's a term K-poppers, but they are K-poppers. You know,
Yeah,
they're big into the K-pop, and they've been big into it, as I said, for years. I
yeah,
mentioned my daughter that's spent 5 months studying in Korea, so yeah, they love the K-pop. But
yeah,
the interesting thing I wanted to touch on, and ladies, I'm sorry if I'm picking on the musician and not picking on you all, but and maybe you all can weigh in on this. What I find very interesting, and Michael, you may know more, is there lessons to be learned in Jamaica from K-pop, being that the government invests in this. They have made this what it, I believe they have made it what it is because they said we're strategically and intentionally going to make K-pop an export. And so I don't know if you had any thoughts and any lessons,
I think
or any
Stephanie might want to
observation.
jump in ahead of me, and I give you the floor, Stephanie, and then I'll add some comments after you. You go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm sorry. It's just because I have a tendency to forget my train of thought. So actually, I have had this discussion. So I think that Jamaica has this is something that I don't want to say criticized because I'm not in that industry, obviously, but I've always found that Jamaica gives away culture for free. Jamaica, for such a small place, has been over the decades fantastic at spreading culture, as good as pretty much the US. Because think about it, you have Japanese people who to invest and visit to Jamaica. Um, However, in the exportation of culture, we haven't capitalized on it at all. Not in the extent of where other countries have done so. So I think 100% Jamaica could learn something because it's not just the cultural because the way Korea has done K-pop, it's it's exported the pride in the culture and in the identity. Um, it's very much controlled a lot of the narrative, and there's probably a whole other that's a whole different topic of censorship of artists and how they want to be perceived and the kind of pressure they put on artists as being representatives of not just themselves but their company, their country, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
However, I would say it's not just entertainment, because you I would say that the average Korean person feels a level of pride in the cultural exportation
Yeah.
of. You've also seen, I believe, in the last 3 years, there was like a 23% in the increase of foreigners learning the Korean language, because the Korean population is significantly decreasing because their birth rate is not high. However, there has been an increase in other people learning the language, because Korea has only Korea pretty much speaks Korean. So yeah, I do think that Jamaica learned something.
Okay, good point,
Okay,
Michael.
Definitely some
bye.
great points. Absolutely. Let me tell you, I am always amazed that as a Jamaican, I come to this, this is like the 10th economy, 10th largest, most flourishing economy in the world. This economy in Korea is actually a bigger economy than Canada. And that wasn't the case 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. But I'm always amazed that as a Jamaican, from my 2 million, I can bring a skill and I can bring a capability to Korea that they actually will pay a top dollar for, because I can help them to grow. And Koreans want to grow. They want to learn and grow and do their best. But the key that I see, so I come from Jamaica and I work hard. Jamaicans work hard. And Jamaicans, when they apply themselves, they'll be the best in the world. And we've seen that over and over, whether it's in sports or it's in music, even in areas of academia, we can be the best in the world, or even in leadership. And you may talk about Kamala Harris or Colin Powell. But I come to Korea not sure what to expect. And this is what I see in Korea, especially when you look at the music, and then you're absolutely right. Koreans take the skill that they have, which may not be the best in the world in their genre, because Koreans didn't invent hip hop. They didn't invent the dance moves. A lot of that came from Black America. But what they did was they looked at it, they applied it to their own culture in terms of they sing in Korean. They don't sing in English. They purposely want to sing in the culture of their country, which is Korean. And then they say, and we will be so disciplined that we will be the best at it. And the discipline is what makes all the difference. And when I see that discipline, I see it in every walk of life. I see it in their transportation system. I see it in their bullet trains. Canada doesn't even have a bullet train. Canada is 10, 15, 20 times bigger than Korea. I see it in their academia, in their school systems. I see it in the way the shops open and close and on time. They take that discipline and they will conquer everybody else, because the Japanese did it. And that's why I said the Japanese have shown the Koreans what discipline can do. And the Koreans took that discipline and they made K-pop their own, and they will rule the world in K-pop. And let me tell you, they're churning out K-pop artists by the month. There's a new one coming every 3 or 4 months. So Blackpink and BTS are big today. That may not be for the next 12 months. There's another 4 of them lined up to come out. And the discipline and the skill go together. That's where Jamaica, I would pray, we have the ability, just the discipline to learn it so well that nobody can take what is ours and make it better than us. Koreans can do it. And we have to be careful. We have to show that. And the investment from the government says, I know you're disciplined, now work your backside off. Take 5 years. You won't even see a stage in 5 years. But 5 years, when you come out after you work your backside off, you will start to rule the world. And that's exactly what K-pop is doing. In music, in movies with Parasite and Minari, you will see it in K-drama, you will see it in their art forms. Koreans are going to start spreading Korea all over the world because of their discipline.
Amazing. It's an amazing story, and I can tell you, I followed it, and I'm like, it blows me away when you read how the rise of K-pop and how they did it and the backing of the government. But I don't want to elaborate too much on that because that can be a whole long
That's
discussion.
a whole other topic.
But I'm going to stay a little bit on culture, and you all touched on little pieces of this. Is there a tradition, a culture, cultural tradition, something that when you came to Korea, you're like, and I'm not saying, it was different, not strange, but different, that you found and you're like, wow, this is pretty interesting. Like I remember, for the Japanese, you must hand the business card. I think it was with two hands.
Yeah.
And so forth. When I worked with a Japanese company back then, or at a Japanese office. So it may be the marriage, it could be anything. I've heard different things like, hey, everybody comes to the wedding. That's a tradition or a cultural tradition. Is there something that you found in Korea that you found very interesting from a cultural and traditional perspective? And I'll start with you, Joanne, because I think you have something there. I saw that look on your face, like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
The ball
Good
going.
observation. Good observation. You know what came off the top of my head, what I'm going to miss, and Michael and I have always talked about it, as much as it is probably a little archaic, is the bowing. I'm going to miss that. It's such a sign of respect. Even in the West, we shake hands, but the bowing it's, and of course, there are different degrees of bowing. The more senior the person is, especially in business, and the Japanese do it too. The lower they bow. But a very endearing thing is that even the little kids, they teach the little kids. And I'm sure you've seen this, Stephanie. When the parents are out with the little ones and I'm around, they put their head on, they push the head forward, So they lick beanie little things, and they go annyeonghaseyo, and then put their head down. So I think that I think it's very, very respectful, and
Good.
I am going to miss that tradition very much. One of the
Good.
things I will miss. I miss a lot about Korea, but one of the things culturally I will miss is a sign of respect. Like the first what's the thing? The first observation, the first what's the word? Thing that you do when you meet somebody is you don't only nod the head, but you literally bow. So I will definitely miss that. Michael has gotten into such a habit of doing it. He does even when we're in Canada. And I'm going, what are you bowing for? We're not in Korea. And he's bowing to people.
Michael, what do you have on that, culturally tradition that you found very interesting?
There's so much. One of the things I've noticed is Koreans are very, as you've heard, very hardworking. No, Korea doesn't work the longest hours. They always say to me, what do people in America work? What kind of hours? Like 9 to 5? I said, yeah, if you work in a factory. But most people, if they work in an office, are like 9 to 7, 9 to. So they go, really? Like 9 hours? And they go, yeah. So Koreans are very hardworking, and as a result, they don't get to meet people easily. And you find that dating is very much in the work setting. So Koreans tend not to meet people easily. Only on their weekends they tend to hang out with their girlfriends. Koreans don't mix as couples. That's a very cultural thing. Even as married couples, they don't mix. The women go out with women, the men go out with men. So you'll see groups of men at dinner, 6 or 7 of them laughing, drinking, having a good time. The women are with their women friends having a drink. So dating is not so easy in Korea, especially with the busy, morning to evening work culture from Monday to Friday. So what you find a lot is you see relationships happen in the office. Now, coming from the West, I always remember them saying, don't have any relationships in the office. That's a bad step to make. In Korea, it's absolutely normal and even expected. Many people in my office have gotten married, met somebody in the office. And sometimes, and the other thing is, it happens fast. They will meet somebody and in 3 months they announce they're getting married. 6
Wow.
months sometimes. And I go,
Wow.
do, do, do you even know them? No, some women, but I'm meeting the parents today because we're going to get married. And they do. So many
Wow.
Koreans,
Stephanie, close your ears.
many Koreans meet. They say, okay, you're the one. I need to get married because 30 is the limit still here. Korea is very much age conscious. If you're not married by 30, they figure something is wrong with
You're
you.
on the shelf.
And you get a lot of pressure. So by age 28, most women are going, I have to find a husband, I have to find a husband. And usually I find them at work and they work in the department next door and they get married within 6 months. And it shocks me every time. But it happens and it works. It works for Korea because their commitment to each other is disciplined. Now, the other thing that happens in Korea, and that's a dating thing, is they will fool around. And I was shocked, but they will. But they won't leave the marriage. The marriage stays intact and the commitment stays intact for life, for the most part, for almost consistently, but they will fool around. And the men usually will, not the women.
So Stephanie, you close your ears there, Stephanie. But are you engaged? And we open up a different one. So let me finish with that other question, Stephanie, in regards to, is there something cultural and traditional that you found interesting?
There's so many random things. So I do like manners here. So the greeting is considered insa, and the kids actually do get a class on that. And I always like peep in and watch because it's taught by a Korean teacher. But I enjoy watching the value placed on showing respect. So I do, especially because they're so little, so it's very cute. Taking off shoes before you come inside. So I grew up with that at home. And I like that everyone does it here.
Okay.
there,
All right.
there are restaurants that do it. They do it at work. It's great, fantastic, love it.
So true.
Just to throw in like a random tidbit, at Korean weddings, if they do a traditional thing, they throw chestnuts at you.
Chestnuts?
And you have to hold like a cloth thing and they throw chestnuts, and however many catches, like how many kids you'll have or something like that.
Okay.
Just a random tidbit.
But chestnuts are big. Chestnuts that would clap you.
And then tough.
You get cuff in the head.
Try very hard not to get hit in the face.
So Stephanie, I'm going to trail off a little bit now on the dating thing. Michael, open up that dating thing now. So,
why did you do that?
And I know you're only there. You know, I don't know if it's months or a year or whatever the case is. So you may not have had any type of experience there. But if you do, anything you want to share?
Actually, I've been in a relationship for over a year. So I don't know about I'm not really a dating person. I don't really like dating. I prefer relationships with friends.
Okay.
So I think that builds the best rapport and foundation because you have other things in common. I did end up meeting someone here. I also am here indefinitely. So I kind of moved here with the intention of building life here. Yes.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. We'll leave it. We won't pry too much. We won't be that.
I can answer any questions. I really
we
don't
won't
mind.
be too nosy. I mean, I'm tempted to ask a question in terms of
Go for it for content.
If this person is Korean, how does your culture, Jamaican culture, and the Korean culture, have you come across any major misunderstanding? Because, you know, for example, you know, I had a Bayesian friend of mine say her husband tell her, hush, she slam her finger. And then say, hush, honey, hush. And she's like, hush? Why are you telling me to hush? You know, but, you know, we Jamaicans say, hush.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so true. I keep seeing that and people take it the wrong way. And I'm going,
yes. Exactly. So I
Oh,
don't know
like
if you've
hush, be
had
quiet.
Yeah.
exactly. So I don't know if you've had any of those experiences in the relationship that you can share that, from a cultural perspective, how that may have played out. If you don't, that's fine. I don't want you
Um,
to overthink it, you know.
okay, so I would say that culturally we're pretty similar. No, well, not
Okay.
similar, but there are similar values. So there isn't many clashes with that. Um, however, language. So in the Korean language, yes and no are not quite the same as in English.
Very good.
So when you say yes and no in English, you'd obviously know you're positive, negative. However, in Korean, you're saying yes or no to what was immediately said.
Yeah.
So if you say a negative sentence and
Yeah.
you say no, it's like you're saying no specifically to that negative sentence.
Yes.
To disagree with
Ah,
that. So I've had like random instances where I think we're on the same page because I said yes or no to something. So like are we not going here or something like that, and like he says like no, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, no, we're not going somewhere. And then really it meant like, oh no, he's disagreeing that we're not going. We are actually going. So it's just it's more linguistics and usually just takes like a second clarification to
to
be like,
get
oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's
well,
totally true. If you say something like, "You aren't hungry, are you?" and the person says yes, you go, "You are hungry?" No. But you said you're. So if you say you aren't hungry, are you? And he says yes, it means I am not hungry. Yes, I am not hungry. But you
I
go,
Yes.
yes, you go, yes, you are hungry? And then it confuses the whole thing. And if it's in business, it's
Yeah.
worse. It gets
Yeah.
worse.
It's just very jumbled. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, let me say this. This conversation was excellent. It was great. I knew I was going to have fun. I knew the audience is going to have fun with this. So I'm winding down so that you guys don't say, boy, man, you keep me all day. So I'm winding down a little bit. So my second to last question is this one. You land, you take a plane, you land in Jamaica. What is that first thing you're doing? Whether it be a jump, some people it's the water, some people it's the food, some people it's I'm driving, got to this spot, or I'm doing this particular thing. So what is the first thing you're doing? I'm going to start with you, Stephanie, then I'm going to come to you, Michael and Joanne.
Food.
Specific.
Immediately. Either steam fish or curry goat or stew peas, one of them.
Okay. All right. So Michael and Joanne.
Maybe you want to go first or you want me to go
You
first?
go first.
First thing I do when I land is I jump behind the wheel. I must drive in Jamaica because everywhere you drive is on the right hand side of the road. Korea is the same as the US, right hand side is the same as Canada, but Jamaica we drive on the left. So the first thing I did is I jump behind the wheel. I said, whoever picking me up, move over to the passenger side. I'm driving. And usually they're scared as hell, but I figure it out, especially with the roundabouts, because you don't see much roundabouts in North America, not even so much in Korea. But I go behind the wheel, first thing. Secondly, I stop and get coconut water at the roundabout just by Harborview. And I must buy coconut water there and drink at least two and till my belly bust. And then as I'm driving in through that part of C
Royal.
Fort or Sea View or whatever it is, I before you get to Mountain View, then I stop there and I must have a thing because thing is Jamaica. I must have a thing. And then I drive up the road, go home, and I have, just like you said, Stephanie, steamed fish or grilled fish with hard food. Dashin, yam, boiled banana, and some cocoa. And that to me
Okra.
is my homecoming. And if I don't do that, especially starting with jumping behind the wheel and driving in Jamaican traffic, I haven't been home yet.
Yeah.
Joanne.
Me, I'm going right to Hellshire or to Port Royal and having steamed fish or fried fish and festival with a lot of yam.
Oh,
I miss my yam.
Yellow yam. You miss
oh
your yellow
yeah.
yam.
I do.
Dish.
I do. One time we went to the Bahamas for vacation, and I paid $12 for a piece of yam. And my daughter said, "Mommy, that's like the size of a baby. My gosh, and you spent $12 US on it." I said, "I don't business. I want my yam."
This is a story I've heard right across. Folks will say there's an African store where they are, but they do not sell yellow yam. It's white yam that they love, and folks miss their yellow yam. And I learned visiting Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana that it's the white yam that's prized, not the yellow yam. So
Yeah.
Ooh.
that was very interesting. All right, last question. And this is a language question. If you've seen any of these videos, you know this is my last question. But before I get to my last question, listen, guys, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your stories, for sharing your experience, giving us just a taste of what living in Korea is like. Just great information. I don't know if any of you, and this is not part of the script, but if you have any closing thoughts in terms of advice for anyone, just before my last question, I'm going to open it up to anyone who wants to give just any piece of advice, any last tips before that last question, because the last question is kind of the end.
Okay.
Stefani, you go. Yeah.
All right. I think my advice would be to come with an open mind.
Mhm.
So there are some differences. I would say do some research coming in, but take everything with kind of a grain of salt, besides like what is fact. As far as like reading other people's experiences here, things like that, take with a grain of salt, and just like land here and experience it for yourself. Because there's a lot of different things, and it's your experience will be your own and what you make of it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Good one.
Great
good,
Yeah.
good,
advice.
good
If
advice.
I was to add to the whole experience and in coming with an open mind is, to me, there's a lot about Korea that is very much like Jamaica. Um, the people in Korea love vegetables, so you can find a lot of different vegetables in Korea, fresh vegetables. We don't have to import a lot of fresh vegetables, greens. So in the Rastaman coming here, we'll get greens and seafood galore. What Koreans also love though is a lot of pork. So you get a lot of pork in Korea, some beef, but the beef is expensive, and some chicken as well, and it's fried chicken. But if you're a man who don't love pork, boy, the beef expensive and the fried chicken is fried chicken, so it's not so healthy. But you can get lots of vegetables here. I think there's a lot about that Jamaicans would find very interesting. But come with an open mind. Don't come here to expect Jamaican style. Come expecting to learn a lot about Korea, and if you learn a lot, you will add to your Jamaicanness.
All right. Joanne, do you
From
have anything to
from
add?
I totally agreed with Stephanie and Michael. Come with an open minded, have no expectations, do your research. A few things though, practical things, because some girls that came from Jamaica and where's Tisha from Bahamas? No.
Bahamas,
No, Bermuda,
Barbados,
Barbados.
Barbados.
Came in the wintertime and the granny they froze to death. They didn't bring the right clothes. So we had to go to the market and buy her warm pants right away. So
Oh, she was
bring
freezing.
warm,
Yeah.
bring warm clothes. Bring your hair products, because they're, the black hair with the creams and the thing. Make sure you bring all of those things. Food, you have to get used to the food. I mean, if you don't get the yellow yam, you just have to don't get the yellow
Make do.
yam. Yeah, really. But bring essential stuff like that, especially the hair stuff, because you can get it here, but not. It's hard to find sometimes.
All right, and
So do your
that's some good
research.
advice. I'm glad you brought that up, Joanne,
Mhm.
because I've had folks who mention, the hair items, and you're like, yeah, you got to bring your hair items. So
By
here's
the
how
way,
I
I have to
close
tell
it.
you though, the best wigs came from Korea to Jamaica. So Koreans came to know Jamaica because they exported wigs to Jamaica because the Korean women's hair is very black and thick, and they would cut it and make wigs and send it to Jamaica. And that's how a lot of the business, we know business people from Korea who went to Jamaica, started the business in wigs and are doing well.
Oh, wow.
No.
Interesting.
It's Korean hair.
Here is how I typically end it. I typically end it, and you all may have the same expression, maybe not, but you're going to teach me and the audience how to say goodbye in the most informal way, not the formal way, no, the informal way in Korea. So, like we say, catch you later, little more, catch up on a strong, or something to that extent. That's kind of informal. What would be the informal way of saying bye in Korea?
Well, there's two ways. Is when somebody is leaving. So the word to say goodbye is annyeong haseyo. Annyeong hikaseo is when you're leaving. Annyeong hikaseo is when
They are leaving.
they are leaving. So that's, you say annyeong hikaseo, and you have to bow. Annyeong hikaseo. You should know more because you
Go to Stefani and see what Stefani.
That sounds formal to me.
No, the children. Everybody says that. There's no perfect word. There's no formal word for goodbye, or I don't know. Michael might know because he works with it every day, or you, Stephanie. But it's the same thing. Annyeong hikaseo or annyeong haseo, and it's not formal. Everything you bow. It's part of the culture.
All right.
Okay, so Korean is a bit tricky because technically you're always trying to be polite. So
True.
like 안녕히 가세요, 안녕히 계세요 are informal-ish, but still polite form. So if you were to be really informal, like maybe just 안녕.
Yeah.
True. Yes.
Annyeong, but annyeong is more for children. But if you were to want to be
it's for
informal, you could say
kids.
annyeong. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
I like
for
that. It sounds simpler.
and then informal good night, maybe like jalja. Like sleep well, good night. Yeah.
Jalja.
I would say Tame Tobayo. And Tame Tobayo means see you again later. So
Okay.
Yeah.
or town. See later.
Tommy Tubayo.
Tame Tobayo.
Tobayo. Okay.
Means I'll see you again later. Or another time. It's like saying, okay, later, another time. Tame Tobayo.
All right. So let me see if I remember it now. So we're saying bye. And again,
You better just say annyeong.
No, make him decide.
no, I like the Tommy Tubayo. I may be saying I may have butchered it, but I'm close. So guys, again, thank you. Tommy Tubayo.
Yeah, Machayo.
Show some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.